Of note, what the Elves deck has done so they can fight the fair fights. 7 non-creature spells for Mike. They are all just more creatures in disguise. It is 4 collected companies and 3 copies of Lead the Stampede, nothing else.
Lead the Stampede is going to be very good at fighting through decks like Jeskai Control and Jund, where you just want to keep gassing back up. In particular, it plays better in this build that's splashing black versus the builds that splash for Vizier to go for the combo with Devoted Druid. Just because having more creatures, you just play a bunch of creatures that are kind of nonsense. You'd rather have the tutor effect of Quarter of Calling in that kind of build. But just hitting a high threshold and getting enough creatures for Shaman of the Pack to be a big deal is what the Lead the Stampede green-black version wants to do.
Well, Mike Morgan is going to be on 5 cards here for the first game. That's going to be rough as Aaron starts on Noble Hierarch. Mike, however, is on the draw, and Elves can come back. You mentioned before, when I play against Elves, so I play a lot of other combo decks, so I try to estimate their race turn. And generally what I'll assume with Elves is that their average combo speed is somewhere between turn 4 and turn 5. They can turn 3 you. I don't expect it. They are about as likely to turn 4 you or turn 5 you, which here may matter.
Speaking of racing speed, Barich is not looking like he's on a fast one.
Starts with Noble Hierarch and then just another land and passes. From Mike, we do have Elvish Clan Caller. This is a creature from the most recent core set. It's an addition to the Elf stack.
It's a 2-mana 1/1 Lord. If you get 100 mana, it has some other activated ability. I think it searches for more copies of itself.
It does. And this is actually why I think we've seen Elves move away from the white splash and more just toward a straight beatdown deck. It got another 2-mana Lord, and now rather than trying for combos and all sorts of fancy things, I think it's way more about turning sideways. It's just got enough Lords to do it. So you say, hey, if I'm going to turn sideways, Shaman of the Pack is the splash I want. Let's just deal damage.
But based on the texture of this game, this is one that the combo version with the white splash could have stolen by now. You see Barich here not doing anything, not playing a deck that really plays removal spells. So if you're able to set up that combo and go off on turn 2 or 3, Barich would have lost to it.
Yeah, we do see Dwinnen's Elite from Morgan and a Land War Elf, so he's up to 4 Elves. Attacks on in, just for one. Elvish Clan Caller does not pump itself.
We'll see if Barich can finally produce an infect creature. At this point, Glistener Elf certainly wouldn't be enough.
He finds Dryad Arbor. I saw in his hand a lot of pump.
I would assume. What else could it be?
Yeah, but he needs to find that Infector. Collected Company, the draw for Mike. That's not what Aaron wants to be seeing. He will swing on in for 5. The Dwinnen's Elite, and an Elf will be next to it. Aaron will block, pump with Pendelhaven. That should get the Collected Company from Morgan. He's hoping to find another Lord and blow out this attack. And Aaron's going to Spell Pierce the Company, which means the Elf token is down. The 2/3 Dryad Arbor blocks. Aaron takes 3, goes to 16.
Yeah, that's a pretty good exchange, though Barich needs to do something more than control Dryad Arbor and Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, well, he's going to attack with Dryad Arbor and Pendelhaven it. Well, this is it for 2. Let's count some pump in Aaron's hand. I think we might have lethal. 4, 4, 4. Yeah, that's 16. He actually just had 16. Woo!
I see.
Ooh. Well, surprise!
I would not expect Elves to go out like that. That was. But
my hand was all pump spells.
Everything that Aaron did in that game is the kind of things that Mike Morgan would want him to do.
Oh. You see Mike's just smiling about it. He's like, oh, what happened there?
I guess sometimes you get got.
But what do you do in Mike's spot? Okay, so Aaron, you're at 16, and he's attacking with Dryad Arbor. Do you block? You're like, oh, I better block here.
I don't want to, throw my Lord in the way.
That's right. That's the only creature that can. The only blocker was your Clan Caller.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing that.
Yeah, maybe if that Elf token was still hanging back, but.
So were you gonna not attack with it?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, right.
I probably would have died.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. I was like, Well, Aaron Barrett showing the infect. Yeah, no problem. Getting beat up on the ground, too. Let's look at the sideboard as we go to our second game. On Mike Morgan's side, 3 Damping Sphere, 2 Eternal Witness, 2 Kitchen Finks, 2 Reclamation Sage, 2 Scavenging Ooze, a Elvish Champion, which actually matters. Aaron has forests here.
There are forests.
The 4th lead, the Stampede. He actually does have 1 Spellskite, which I assume is great, and a copy of Stay in the Mind.
The Spellskite is the best card here on the sideboard by a very considerable margin. Don't mind the Elvish Champion. It increases your racing speed and makes it so something like a Noble Hierarch chump blocking is not an option. The rest of the stuff here doesn't really play. I could maybe see bringing in a Damping Sphere. You could those big turns. A turn like that where Aaron's trying to cast 4 pump spells isn't going to work. It's not great in the matchup, though.
Now, I have to actually ask something. Elvish Champion gives all elves Forest Walk, right?
Oh, Glistener Elf.
How do you... Hold on.
I guess you can only cast it on the turn when you have lethal.
Yeah, I don't know if I... So do you still board it in? Because like, if Glistener Elf gets Forest Walk, I'm really out.
I think the ability to just cast it on the turn when you have lethal, you should have enough other cards in your hand.
Okay, but you really can't cast it before then. Or well...
If there's a Glistener Elf, no.
Right. Okay, fair. I just thought that was, I was like...
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how Lords used to work, I suppose.
On Aaron's side, Shaper Sanctuary, Nature's Claim, Dissenter's Deliverance, Spellskite, Dispel, Grafdigger's Cage, Relic of Progenitus, Dismember, Distortion Strike, Carrion Call. I'm going to assume Distortion Strike to push through. Is Grafdigger's Cage worth it? It's just company?
It's fine. You maybe reach for it.
Anything else?
I'm not really seeing anything else I would go for. Maybe the Dismember, though Elves is more of a critical mass deck where you're just generally losing the same amount of life anyway.
Yeah, you take 4 to remove an Elvish Champion, and you're just like, oh, now I saved myself 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the games kind of go too fast for that.
Aaron's switching up hats for this tournament. Still a ridiculous hat, but it's a different ridiculous hat.
Yeah, it's brand adjacent.
Mike starting off on Llanowar Elves.
Ooh, I do have to check a bingo square. There was a Noble Hierarch Exalted. Some of that happening in this game.
And Aaron going to have a Glistener Elf turn 1 here. Let's see, I got one. Match with an invitational winner. That'll be Aaron Barich. Our most recent invitational champion, in fact.
Yeah. Doing it with Infect.
That was a massacre.
Probably the fastest invitational final ever.
Now, that one Spellskite Mike has boarded in, interestingly, because we are now on this mono green, or like the way Elves has trended, he doesn't have any Chords of Calling, so it's just Lead the Stampede and Company to find it.
Yeah, it is a little bit harder to come by, which does matter.
So it was no second land for Mike. We did make another Llanowar Elves and Heritage Druid. Glistener Elf swings in, Mike immediately puts Llanowar Elves in front. And that's just a chump block, as it exalted up to a 2/2.
That chump block is a little bit interesting. It would take multiple mutagenic growths for Barich to have lethal on this turn.
Yeah. Dismember from Aaron on the other Llanowar Elves, and it also allows Aaron to do lines like this.
In particular, given that Morgan's missing a land drop, I think that untapping with that Llanowar Elves was worth a good amount of value to him.
Yeah, I mean, this board just looks miserable.
Right.
Elvish Mystic the play from Mike. And because he's down that creature, yeah, if he had another creature in play, he could be making 3 green right here. As it is, it's just going to pass.
Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in that chump block last turn, it is extremely consistent, and you would certainly want to make the chump block against this much more open mana. Distortion
Strike, Mutagenic Growth. I mean, is there going to be another turn? Become Immense? No, that's 10. That's 10. Aaron just shows him the hand. Infect's messed up.
I suppose the Distortion Strike makes this all not very interesting anyway.
Well, he had him on turn 3 anyway. I guess that block doesn't matter too much.
Play however you want. I'm going to kill you.
Aaron Barich showing off. 2-0. Just oof.
A little bit shy of the Storm Count of 8 I need for my bingo card, but that'll give me a turn 3 win anyway.
I'm going to check off player gets 10 poison counters. All right.